Hey everyone, this is Jordan Bagbey, and I would like to welcome you to my video and presentation here. This is concerning my experience so far as a technical writer. Really what we're going to do here is I will explain who I am first and foremost, and what my job is, where I work for, some of the skills that I've picked up. We'll also look at some of my work samples as to what I do on a daily basis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. To start off, a little bit about me. I am currently 31 years old, and I like to say I'm a born and bred Virginian from Halifax County. Do not expect you to know where that is. It's in a pretty rural part of Virginia, hence my accent. And yeah, I was able to graduate from Radford University way back in 2013 with 2 Bachelor of Science degrees. One is in Media Studies with a concentration in journalism, and the other is a Bachelor of Science in English. And I am still, of course, within the technical communication program. This video is a part of the internship and our practicum in order to graduate. I actually began in the technical communication program last August, so August of 2020. That honestly does not feel that long ago. It really does not. Here we are in November, and that was, 15 months ago. So the program and my work within the program itself has really flown by here in these pandemic times. So really interesting. And since I've been in the program, I went ahead and started applying to jobs full-time. And I was lucky enough to be offered full-time employment as a technical writer with a company called Heat and Control in July of 2021. As of this recording, it's been exactly 4 months since I interviewed for the position. And that time has flown by as well, and I started in late July. So I'm about to more or less celebrate 3.5 months with the company, and my 4-month anniversary will come up here in the next couple of weeks. And usually with these about me things, usually people will ask you interesting fact about yourself. So I always like to say, and I'm very proud that I am a lefty, very much a left-handed person, and because of that, pretty ambidextrous. So that's just a little bit about me and who I am. And moving forward now, how did I get my role at Heat and Control? So as I alluded to a little bit earlier, I went ahead and started applying for full-time jobs. I was a full-time student for the first year in the program, naturally living off of financial aid money and what I was making as a teaching assistant within the program. So instead of just pursuing an outright internship, I thought, hey, why not go ahead and see if you can find a full-time job while you're still in the program? And lucky enough, I was able to find it with Heat and Control. I started looking for jobs and roles in early April of this year, and it took me about 3 months to land this job. Went on a few interviews, and everyone knows how that goes. Interviews can be sort of hit and miss, how you react to people within the interview, and ultimately what they are looking for as well. And with Heat and Control, I very much found a home. During the interview process, I felt very comfortable. It was easygoing. It was more of a conversation instead of an interrogation, like some interviews and interviewers can be. So here on this screen is my resume that I used in order to pursue the role. And then over here on the left-hand side of the screen is the original job posting from Indeed.com for the technical writer role at Heat and Control. And if you can read through it real quick, it's very much working with subject matter experts, creating and maintaining existing documentation, and overall collaboration with a few of the departments within the company. And as we move on, A little bit more about the company itself. So what is Heat and Control? Heat and Control was founded in 1950, so it's been 70 plus years now. And what we do is design, manufacture equipment for the food processing industry. And this is a big industry, bigger than I ever anticipated, really working from the inside. There's certain segments that's referred to as food processing, so that could be the production and the cooking of food. Then there's product handling, which is primarily what I deal in, and also seasoning is usually it's part of product handling as we treat it, but it is also sort of its own thing that's added on. And with Heat and Control itself, we have a global footprint with offices and clients around the world. So within the United States, we have an office in Texas. Our headquarters is in California. We've got manufacturing facilities in New Hampshire. And around the world, there's offices in Britain, Russia, China, Australia, pretty much in every time zone. The sun does not set on Heat and Control, to use the old adage for the Spanish and British empires. And then for my role, I am based out of the office in Flower Mound, Texas, and I am part of the controls team. And really what that is, the controls team handles what we call the logic of the system. It primarily has to deal with the software, but I deal with both hardware and software, which is one of the best attributes of the job. I get to deal with the physicality of the machines as well as the software that governs it. And then my team is pretty small. On the technical writing side, it's just two of us handling what we need to handle. And there are technical writers elsewhere within the company, but what we deal with in product handling, it's just two of us that's using our expertise to create and edit the documentation that goes along with product handling. And the job duties, what are some of the things that I do on a daily basis? So on this slide, mentioning our global footprint, there is a map of where all of our offices are around the globe. And what we do here in Flower Mound, my primary role is to draft and publish functional design specifications, or FDS for short. And as I mentioned earlier, this revolves around product handling. So what is product handling? We are responsible for all the machinery in between food processing, so that is the cooking and preparation of the food, all the way to when it is packaged. So this is a pretty big area to be working in, and it deals with the transfer of the food from processing to weighing and packaging. So what you actually would pick up, say in the grocery store or in the line at, say, at a Subway or Jersey Mike's or Potbelly, you know, the chips, so to speak, while you're waiting in line. And with this FDS, we have to very much review primary documentation from our project engineers, from our sales group, from the project managers. We have to know where to locate this information and what information to pull from this documentation to integrate it within the FDS. This can sometimes mean meeting with the subject matter experts to clarify project-specific information and logic. So if it's not clear-cut or if it is a complicated system, we very much need to go ahead and speak with the engineers, if not already, and kind of boil down what exactly the system is and what it accomplishes. And then as well, our support, we support the controls team in creating modular content for repeated use in our FDSs. So we work very much with Madcap Flare. I am in Madcap Flare daily, and a lot of that has to do with the modular content. and being able to reuse the content so you're not having to write everything from scratch every time. On a given basis right now, I have been working on about 6 to 8 FDSs. Our head technical writer, she's dealing with about 14 or 15 at a time within product handling and processing as well. And we do this all, of course, in Flare. We communicate a lot through Teams. So our primary documentation is usually in Microsoft Word or Excel. And then when we have to use images, we do that in Microsoft Visio in order to put our callouts on it. So what does this look like exactly? In the two samples that I am showing, so we'll look at this first sample here and what it looks like. A lot of our information, since we are dealing with design specifications, means we have to look at a lot of the engineering drawings and put them in the document, but simplify them. And you see that here on this slide, where on the left-hand screen, or left-hand side, I should say, this is the system overview of a particular product that is transferring IQF meatballs and chunky sausages from processing to the weigher positions where the product is weighed and bagged. And you can see there through some of the boxes that I have and the arrows that are going down the conveyor belts, how the system is moving. And of course, that's what we're doing here in the overview. And then in the lower part of the image is explaining how the system works. So transfer from processing, our accumulation, our distribution into the weighers, and then ultimately on to packaging. And then the right-hand sample shows basically how the machines work and callouts on the drawing or the design there of which machine is which. So there's a lot of this within the FDS, a lot of images showing the equipment, a lot of callouts on what specific equipment is within the system itself, and explaining exactly what that equipment is doing in each of these phases. So in the next slide here, it's also being able to list what is included in these systems and projects. So on the left-hand side, this is a table that shows what's included with the control panel and some of our HMI operator terminals. And we have to be able to go into the primary documentation and find all of this. And I must say, it's not as easy as you think it is. And then over on the right-hand side, this is an example of our modular content. So whenever I do a new project, most of this information is already written. The only thing that needs to be changed is the speeds there of where the system runs that I find in the primary documentation, and then what the product number is for the speed bit down there in the note in the bottom of the image. So that's a great example of how modular content works. Out of all that information there, I changed just a few aspects, and we're able to reuse the primary content there for each of our FDSs. And it also maintains a streamlined continuity as well. The writing more or less effectively stays the same. We just need to change the information per the client and whatever the project entails. Here in my second sample, this shows how that modular content can work. So in the left-hand image, again, there is another image for a different project, but the design of the document itself and the hierarchy of our section titles there, accumulation and distribution, mostly stay the same, but we have to update accordingly to each project. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just all hardware. We deal with the software that governs and controls these systems. So on the right-hand side is an excellent example of that. The back end of the FDSs deal a lot with the HMI and operator terminals and how they operate. So we have to provide an overview of the screens that operators will use and see when they are working on this particular line. So on the right-hand side, you see how this system looks on the operator terminal, and then we are using those call outs to let operators and people know what exactly these buttons do. And that's included there in the table below. So very much that is a high level bit of what I do with the company. To wrap this up, very much the technical communication program at UNT provided me the foundation to start at Heat and Control. I don't think I could have hit the ground running like I did within my role without that basis of my master's education from UNT. To highlight, it's a fair amount of the modular content and also style and voice manipulation. And it's also a fair amount of that my job revolves around editing what engineers write. And engineers can almost write their own language. We just got to be able to translate it so everybody understands it. And really using Flare for the first time, I equate it to like drinking from a fire hose, learning how to do that. It is a beast of a software to get a hold of and use, but thankfully I've got proficiency with Flare now and know how to use it for our purposes. And then moving on with other knowledge, gain further knowledge in how Teams works, just getting more comfortable with that. Visio, I had never used that before, and also just being on top of how you manage your files. I manage my files both on a C drive and on the OneDrive system in order to back up my information, just to make sure it's there in the cloud, so if anything weird happens, I don't lose the information. But also, teamwork makes the dream work, and this is kind of seen where my transition from my previous life working in service style and sales style jobs into a more creative, collaborative, and looser structure for a workplace. I was very tense coming into work originally because really the type of service jobs and sales jobs, they make you tense because you're dealing with people's issues and problems every day. It can really change your psyche. So being able to augment and change and ultimately become a looser person within the workplace is one of the best changes ever. And I can kind of basically create my own schedule and work within my greater independence, but I'm also working on a team. But the structure of how we work is more or less individual. No one's breathing down my neck. No one's really making me stressed out. And that's just the best thing you can ask from a job itself. And one thing that I may want to change going forward, seeing where what I've been educated with at UNT and seeing how we operate, I would very much like to update the documentation to have more aesthetic appeal. As you can see in those examples, they're incredibly functional, but there's just no aesthetic there. So I may be able to bring that in to the company at a later date with my knowledge of design and InDesign. And also I do want to bring greater content strategy into the company, doing things such as content audits, because we have so much content and so many files that we manage. It's really going to become a necessity, I think, in the future. And then, yeah, just introducing more content strategy as we move forward is something that I'm really hoping I can integrate. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to follow along with me about my experience so far working as a technical writer here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've enjoyed it so far. It's great to be working in the field that I've chosen, and even more so working in that field before I even get my master's degree. So that shows a lot about the power of a master's degree and also just what we are being taught at the UNT Technical Communication Program. So thanks and applause all around for everyone that works within the program. I really do appreciate it, and I really appreciate you for watching almost nearly 20 minutes of me rambling. So thank you all very much, and yeah, I hope you take care.